and welcome back to our PHP tutorial series. Today I'm going to be teaching you variables, constants and code commenting. So we'll start off with variables. So what are variables? Well, quite simply, they are what they suggest. They are a piece of data whose value can vary. So it could be an integer, it could be a string, it could be a boolean, anything. And they are represented with a $sign and then the name of the variable. So for this I'm going to call it my var. You can call it whatever you want as long as it is not called this, because if it's called this then it will think you're going into OOP, which we'll talk about at a later date. So again, I will call it my var, right, and I will give it a value. I will give it a string as its data type, and I will give the string a value of hello, comma, space, and end the string and put a semicolon. Right, and that is a variable. That is how the variable is created. Now, variable's value can change. So if I go echo $my var and I go to the tutorial, I get hello. Right, so we've just echoed the variable. But what if I put my var equals world? Well, we'll just get world output onto the page, and that's because we've overwritten the value of my var. So if we wanted to add that to the end of the value instead of replacing it, we'll put dot equals instead of equals. Save that, refresh, and we get hello world. Okay, so that is the basic way of using variables. Now, if we already have a string on the page, so for example, if we were to put echo hello and we wanted to put world at the end, we wouldn't have to put world there like that. We could use a variable. So we'll call this variable world and we'll give it a value, world. And to add it to the end of the string, what we'll do is we'll end the string, put a dot, then the name of the variable, which in this case is world, and then put the semicolon to end it. Oops, that's my fault, forgot to put a semicolon. There we go, hello world, and then we can put a little exclamation mark on the end there. Start the string again, and then we have hello world. So as you can see, you can echo variables directly, you can echo them in the middle of a string, you can echo them virtually anywhere. Let's make this, the word hello, into bold, because what the echo function does is it doesn't put text into the page as such, it puts it into the HTML code. So here we have a bold hello. Okay. Now, let's say we were using double quotation marks. Instead of ending the string, I could simply put $world inside the string, because if you remember from last time, when it's got double quotation marks, it processes the string before echoing it, so it'll find any variables and it'll change those into the correct value. So we still have hello world. So if you wanted to put a $sign into the string, use the escape feature like we discussed last time, and now we have $world. There we go. And that is how to use Constants are a slightly different story in that they're not quite the same as variables. Variables can have a value which changes. However, constants can't. Constants will always stay the same value throughout the script. So, let's say we wanted to create a constant. We would use the define function. So, write the word define, open bracket. Right. Now we need to give the constant a name. So, in this case, we'll give it the name hello. We'll give it a value of world, and we'll make it case sensitive, right, by putting the boolean word true. If we didn't want it to be case sensitive, we'd simply replace that with false. And we don't actually have to give it a value if we don't want to. The only two values which we actually need to give are the name of the constant and whether or not it's case sensitive. So now if I write echo hello, that should output world onto the page. We don't need the $sign because this isn't a variable, so let's test that. There we have world. So if we go back, one thing you have to be slightly careful of when you're using variables and constants is that you make sure you use one that's been created, because if I was to use, let's say, echo $name, that won't work because name hasn't been created. If I go to refresh, I'll get nothing on the page. But in some instances you might get an error that says call to undefined variable, but I have that feature disabled. So just be careful what you do when you're calling variables and constants. Right, final thing to cover in this tutorial is commenting code. Now at the moment we've not got into anything particularly advanced, but we have further down the line you will be coming across code which is much more complicated and hard to follow. So it's really helpful if you leave little comments and notes to yourself and other programmers to show exactly what you've been doing. So there's three ways of doing that. There's two single line comments and one multi-line comment. The first single line comment is a double forward slash. As you can see, the text has turned orange here, indicating that I needed a comment. This is a comment. The second one is a hash symbol. This is a comment. Okay, and the rest, in these cases, the rest of the line will be rendered as a comment. You can have whatever code you want before that, and it'll operate normally. But anything after these double forward slashes is a comment. Same with this line. I could put name is Tom, and that would work perfectly fine. However, we now come to the multi-line comment, which is a forward slash and a star, like so. The comment goes in between here. This is a comment. It can span as many lines as I want it to, and the rest of the code, the whole document, will be rendered as a comment until you end it, which is done with a star and a forward slash. And that is the basic of commenting, and comments will be completely ignored when the code is passed. So here we will get nothing because we haven't echoed any new variables and our comments have been ignored. And that concludes tutorial 2. Next time we'll be getting a little bit more advanced, so stay tuned and